On his first day in office, the law and order president, Donald Trump, granted a full pardon to the operator of the Silk Road. Dread Pirate Roberts has been fetishized by the internet as someone who stood up to the tyranny of the government. In libertarian circles, he's viewed as a hero. Oop, that's my food. Trump likened his situation to Dread Pirate Roberts, saying, "The scum that worked to convict him were some of the same lunatics who were involved in the modern-day weaponization of government against me. He was given 2 life sentences plus 40 years. Ridiculous." I'd assume that Trump is saying this because he was told by someone in his cabinet that this guy was arrested on drug charges, right? What he was actually arrested for was continuing criminal enterprise, narcotics conspiracy, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and conspiracy to commit computer hacking. Part of the reason why he was charged with such a drastic sentence is that he paid $730,000 to hitmen in order to carry out hits on people who were threatening to expose him. And the judge was considering that in the sentencing. So this is not a good dude. This is a really, really bad dude. And for Trump to say that he's like a good guy who's just being taken advantage of by the lawfare system is insane, especially when Trump is the #1 culprit of lawfare. Prior to the 2024 election, there was an election poll in Des Moines, Iowa, that stated that Kamala Harris was going to win by 3%. In reality, Trump won the state by 13 percentage points. The lawfare president has decided to sue the Des Moines Register, responsible for the poll, for brazen election interference. The company responsible for the poll has dismissed the lawsuit as meritless and said it would vigorously defend its First Amendment rights. Whatever happens legally, the case could have a chilling effect beyond Iowa. Trump said in legal papers that he wanted to deter radicals from continuing to act with corrupt intent in releasing polls manufactured for the purpose of skewing election results in favor of Democrats. Donald Trump sues people who put out information that says that he might lose. Let's take a peek at the Fox News comment section about this topic. I think this is absolutely comical. Good for Trump. Seltzer published a poll having canvassed 808 likely voters. Her poll had a margin of error of 3.4%, meaning that the actual result would be within plus or 5 minus percent of the poll result, 95% of the time, confidence level. Okay? Instead of Harris winning by 3 points, Trump won by 13 points. The chances of a random poll being off by 16 points when the margin of error is 3.4 points is virtually 0. This absolutely was a political hit job, and Seltzer and the Des Moines Register should pay for this clear corruption. Do these people think they just released the poll saying fake info? Nice to see someone break it down who understands statistics. I've had 6 stat classes at the grad/undergrad level, and it drives me crazy watching these polls during elections, knowing how they are playing the numbers. My advice to future voters, forget the polls and just go with your vote. Great, 133 upvotes. 113 upvotes. Sorry, I'm not good at numbers. Such a great breakdown of pure statistical math. Well done. The other point I would make in Trump's legal case is that the door only seems to swing one way. When is the last time that a Republican/conservative was vastly overestimated in a national poll? You know the answer. I actually don't know the answer. When was the last time? I think probably Donald Trump, if I had to guess. I would say there was probably something in which he was overestimated in a national poll. They just asked the question with the assumption already there. You know the answer. This is the answer. It's all the swamp. It's all fake. They're all lying to you. I love how they're all just like clapping each other on the back saying that this is like serious math. It's like any serious scientist, any serious mathematician might say, we were off by 16 points. Why were we off by 16 points? Well, for one, 808 voters is a pretty fucking small sample size. And for two, let's think sampling demographic. Maybe there was an error with the sampling demographic. Maybe it skewed Democrat, but no one even thinks to consider that it could be a mistake. It's all intentional, and they better fucking sue. Seltzer did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Tuesday, but she told PBS in Iowa last week that it's not my ethic to set up a poll to deliver a specific response. She was mystified about what motivation people would think she had. To suggest without a single shred of evidence that I was in cahoots with somebody, I was being paid by somebody, it's all just it's hard to pay too much attention to it, except that they are accusing me of a crime. Right. And not just you're being accused of a crime, the President of the United States is suing to shut you up and take away your free speech. Trump sues ABC News and host George Stephanopoulos over rape claim. So this is one in which the Trump team actually won. ABC paid out $15 million to the Donald Trump whatever the fuck. I think it was to a library, to the Trump library, presidential library. Last year, a New York civil court found Mr. Trump sexually abused E. Jean Carroll in 1996. Miss Carroll was awarded $83.3 million for battery and defamation over disparaging comments made by Mr. Trump when he denied her accusation. The judge in the case later stated that the claim that Mr. Trump had raped Mr. Carroll was substantially true, albeit with his fingers rather than his penis. So what happened here? Donald Trump was alone with E. Jean Carroll in a department store late at night when there was no security cameras, and he forced himself upon her in a dressing room, sticking his fingers inside of her genitals without her consenting. The New York jury found him criminally liable. So where does ABC fit into the picture? George Stephanopoulos was interviewing, Miss Mace, a South Carolina Republican, saying, "You endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and 2 separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. How do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump?" Donald Trump was able to sue ABC on the basis that he was not found liable of rape. He was found liable of sexual assault. Nonetheless, Donald Trump was still found to have shoved his fingers into this woman's vagina without asking. Fucking sick. CBS conducted a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. There was a little bit of controversy drummed up around this because on Twitter, CBS was accused of manipulating the footage in order to make Kamala look better so that she could win the election against Donald Trump. The truth is, there was multiple versions of this footage that went out. Prior to the 60 Minutes episode, a preview clip was aired on Face the Nation that included a wordy explanation of her stance on Israel. The day following, on the 60 Minutes interview, there was a shortened, edited version of that same answer. 60 Minutes did release the full, uncensored, raw footage at the same time that they were releasing their 60 Minutes episode, and Donald Trump is suing them $10 billion for covering up her answer and for editing it. Now, I just want to play this section here, which is the edited section, and see if they're trying to hide that it's edited.
Have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
While the war in the Middle East has dominated recent headlines, it's the economy that most concerns American voters this election year, as always.
I never could have guessed that there was edits to this video. Are you kidding me? That seems like raw footage. When it goes into his brain and it starts projecting his brain over her voice and starts muting her voice, I just thought that was unedited. So we should sue them for $10 billion. Bernie Sanders commented on this week. CBS may be reaching a legal settlement with Trump because he didn't like how a campaign interview with Kamala was edited. Really? If CBS caves, the belief that we have an independent media protected by the First Amendment is undermined. If CBS isn't allowed to edit this footage however they seem fit, then they are not a media company the same way that we see the media in the United States. Freedom of press. Freedom of press. And Donald Trump is pushing to have their press license revoked. They're not allowed to be a press because he doesn't like them. The edit that they did wasn't even bad. It didn't even really make her look any better. Like, her stance on Israel-Palestine was very wishy-washy, and it pretty much won over 0 voters. And they edited it to make it also wishy-washy, where she wins over literally 0 voters. Let's just sue the voices until they shut up. Bob Woodward, who conducted, I believe, a dozen interviews with Donald Trump, is being sued for $50 million in damages. Journalist Bob Woodward conducted 20 interviews with Donald Trump at the end of his 2020 presidency, which made headlines for revealing, among other things, the extent to which Trump had downplayed the COVID-19 pandemic. The defendants involved responded with a joint statement calling the lawsuit without merit and promising to aggressively defend against it. All these interviews were on the record and recorded with President Trump's knowledge and agreement, reads the statement provided to NPR. Moreover, it is in the public interest to have the historical record in Trump's own words. We are confident that the facts and the law are in our favor. Trump's statement on the matter: I am continuing my fight against this corrupt, dishonest, and deranged fake news media by filing the lawsuit against a man whose image is far different from the fact. Bob Woodward, his publisher Simon & Schuster, and their parent company Paramount Global. Trump, who has actively peddled election disinformation, fake news, you can't say that, wrote on Truth Social, adding that I will always champion truth in a big heckin' capital so that you know it's really the truth, and battle against the evil forces of disinformation and fake news. Sure, buddy. When people disagree with you, when the facts disagree with you, you better sue them into silence and then only parrot the truth. Trump should trademark the word truth. I mean, he has the Truth Social media company. I bet he does have a truth trademark. Just fucking crazy. Stalinist. And if you thought that these things aren't effective, it's not just a couple bucks that Trump's making off of the lawsuits because, ABC just doesn't feel like dealing with it and gives him the $15 million because George Stephanopoulos was a little bit liberal with his language. It really, really is working for him. He is shutting up voices of dissent and getting them to step in line and kiss the ring. So in his new book, Donald Trump threatens billionaire and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg with prison. Save America, set to be published next week, includes a photograph of Zuckerberg and Trump at the White House. Underneath the photo, Trump wrote that Zuckerberg would come to the Oval Office to see me and bring his very nice wife to dinners, be as nice as anyone could be, while always plotting install shameful lockboxes in a true plot against the president. Trump went on to pin some of his election conspiracies on Zuckerberg and gave him a serious warning. He told me there was nobody like Trump on Facebook, but at the same time, and for whatever reason, steered it against me. We are watching him closely, and if he does anything illegal this time, because he did something illegal last time, he will spend the rest of his life in prison, as will others who cheat in the 2024 presidential election. The assumption here being that we all assume that Donald Trump was cheated out of the 2020 election, which he really won, and it was the fault of Zuckerberg and the others who cheated. And if they do it again, they're going to spend their life in prison. It's not the first time Trump has threatened the meta mogul with prison. In July, he called out Zuckerbucks, saying a Trump administration would pursue election fraudsters at levels never seen before, and they will be sent to prison for long periods of time. Zuckerberg admits that the White House pushed to suppress Hunter Biden laptop story and much more. In other words, the 2020 presidential election was rigged. So basically what happened here was Hunter Biden left his laptop at a repair technician, forgot about it because, he's a fucking crackhead, which we found out later from the laptop. And then this repair technician at a computer store goes to, I forget who. Was it the Washington Post broke it or the New York Times broke it or something? Pretty much everyone kind of questioned it at first and was like, what's going on here? And for, I think, 12 hours, Facebook took the story off of Facebook, and then they reinstated it. And then a couple days later, maybe 50 agents of the FBI came out and said, this is probably fake. And they all signed a letter saying, we don't really trust this. This seems fake. And then it ends up, it was real. There wasn't any acts of, corruption that were found. At least no illicit acts of, for instance, Hunter Biden eliciting corruption from Joe Biden while he was acting as vice president, while Hunter Biden was serving on the board at Burisma, which is what the Republicans have all been alleging. There's no evidence of that, but what we did find is that Hunter Biden lied and said that he never did drugs before when he was buying a gun, and in reality, he did do drugs, so that's why he got locked up. Thank God Joe Biden pardoned his son. Because, if we're going to pardon an actual fucking kingpin who was eliciting hits on people, paid $730,000 to kill his rivals, then I think we can pardon Hunter Biden for lying on a form and saying that he didn't do drugs. Anyways, Trump agrees. His threats worked. Probably, Trump said when asked if Zuckerberg is directly responding to the threats you've made to him. The Lawfare Law and Order chief. I mean, I'm just covering a couple of things. This is not even the start. This is just scratching the surface. Trump has a history of using law enforcement, using the courts to attack his rivals and to shut them up. And it's just going to get worse because he's the president of the United States. He's surrounded by people who approve of what he's doing. During a podcast interview with Jack Murphy a few years ago, Vance offered prospective presidential advice for Donald Trump. I think Trump is going to run again in 2024. I think that what Trump should do, if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, and replace them with our people, replace them with MAGA people. And when the courts stop you, he went on, stand before the country and say, "The Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it." Quoting Andrew Jackson, giving a challenge to the entire constitutional order. Needless to say, Trump has done exactly that. He's fired people and he's filled them up with not the swamp, not those Republicans who have served for 60 years as Republicans pushing forward the Republican agenda. No, those are the swamp. What we need the MAGA people who will kiss the ring. People like Mark Zuckerberg, true MAGA people.